Imagine living in a world where everyone talks about love, romance, and desire as if it's the default, something you're supposed to feel. Movies celebrate passionate kisses. Songs idolize longing and lust. Books obsess over romantic pursuits. And in the middle of all that noise, there's you simply not feeling the same. You're not broken. You're not cold. You're not confused. You're just asexual, and that is entirely valid. Hello, and welcome back to our LGBTQ+ series, where we explore the full, vibrant spectrum of human identity. Today's episode is dedicated to shedding light on a deeply misunderstood and often overlooked orientation, asexuality. Asexuality is more than just not wanting sex. It's not a trend. It's not a trauma response. It's not something that needs to be fixed, explained away, or pitted. Asexuality is a valid sexual orientation, and just like any other identity on the queer spectrum, it exists in many forms, carries its own set of challenges, and deserves full recognition. But what does it actually mean to be asexual? Does it mean you never feel anything for anyone? Is it the same as celibacy? Can asexual people fall in love, date, or get married? What if you used to feel sexual attraction and don't anymore? Or what if you're still unsure where you fall? In this video, we'll dive into the beautiful complexity of asexual identity. We'll explore the spectrum that includes demisexual, graysexual, aromantic, and more. We'll bust the most common myths, answer the tough questions, and most importantly, we'll center the real voices and experiences of asexual people who are living fully, authentically, and joyfully. Because here's the truth. In a hypersexualized world, asexuality is radical. It challenges the norms. It invites us to rethink what intimacy means, what relationships can look like, and how we define connection without centering it around sexual desire. So whether you're questioning your own identity, supporting a loved one, or just seeking to broaden your understanding, this space is for you. Grab a cup of tea, sit back, and let's begin this honest, educational, and empowering conversation about what it really means to identify as asexual. Because being asexual isn't about what you're missing. It's about what makes you whole on your own terms.
Asexuality is a valid sexual orientation, not a phase or problem. In a world where sexuality is often equated with desire, passion, and intimacy, asexuality challenges the dominant narrative by simply existing. Asexuality, defined as experiencing little or no sexual attraction to others, is a valid and natural sexual orientation. Yet, despite growing awareness, it remains one of the most misunderstood aspects of the LGBTQ+ spectrum. Too often, asexual people are told their orientation is just a phase, a result of trauma, or something that needs to be fixed. These harmful misconceptions not only invalidate real experiences, but also contribute to the erasure of a deeply important identity. First and foremost, it's essential to understand that asexuality is not the same as celibacy or abstinence. Celibacy is a choice to abstain from sex, often for religious or personal reasons. Asexuality, on the other hand, is not a choice. It's an inherent part of who someone is. Just as some people naturally experience sexual attraction, others do not. It's not about lacking the capacity for love, connection, or even intimacy. It's about how sexual attraction, or the absence of it, functions in their lives. Dismissing asexuality as a phase is not only dismissive, but also deeply damaging. Many asexual individuals report knowing from a young age that they didn't feel the same way their peers did about romance or sexual interest. They often spend years questioning themselves, thinking they're broken, or trying to fix something that was never wrong in the first place. This internal conflict can lead to confusion, low self-esteem, and even mental health struggles, all rooted in the false belief that asexuality is abnormal. Another common myth is that asexuality results from trauma or hormonal imbalances. While trauma can affect anyone's relationship with sexuality, it does not define an orientation. Many asexual individuals have never experienced trauma related to sex or relationships, and medical studies have not found any evidence to suggest that asexuality is caused by a medical issue. It's simply one of many valid ways human sexuality expresses itself. Asexual people can and do lead fulfilling lives. They form deep emotional bonds, fall in love, raise families, and contribute meaningfully to their communities. Some asexual individuals even choose to engage in sexual activity for various reasons, because they want children, to support a partner, or simply because they are sex favorable. Their choices do not make their identity any less real. Asexuality is not defined by behavior, but by the presence or absence of sexual attraction. Ultimately, validating asexuality means accepting that human experience is beautifully diverse. Just as we accept that some people are straight, gay, bisexual, or pansexual, we must recognize asexuality as a legitimate orientation. It does not need to be justified, explained away, or changed. It simply needs to be respected. Asexuality exists on a spectrum. When we talk about sexual orientation, we often imagine a linear scale, from straight to gay, with bisexuality somewhere in between. But asexuality doesn't quite fit on that scale, because it's not about who you're attracted to, it's about whether you experience sexual attraction at all. And even within the asexual identity, there isn't one fixed way of being. Asexuality, like many other identities, exists on a spectrum, a broad and diverse range of experiences, feelings, and expressions that challenge the idea of a single, universal human sexuality. To begin with, asexuality generally refers to someone who experiences little to no sexual attraction to others. But that definition doesn't capture the full picture. Some people never feel sexual attraction at all and are perfectly content that way. Others may feel it occasionally or under very specific emotional conditions. Some might engage in sexual activity for the sake of a romantic partner, while others find the idea of sex deeply uncomfortable or uninteresting. These distinctions are important because they reflect how varied human experiences can be, even among people who share the asexual label. One of the most common identities within the asexual spectrum is gray asexuality, or gray A. Gray asexual people experience sexual attraction rarely, inconsistently, or under ambiguous circumstances. They don't fit neatly into asexual or sexual categories, and that's exactly the point. Another key identity is demisexuality, where sexual attraction only occurs after forming a strong emotional bond. Demisexual people often find themselves misunderstood because their attraction doesn't align with casual or immediate interest. It's deeply contextual, not absent. Then there's the emotional and romantic aspect to consider. Asexuality is about sexual attraction, but that doesn't mean asexual people are emotionless or solitary. Many are romantically attracted to others, identifying as biromantic, homoromantic, heteroromantic, or panromantic. Some pursue loving romantic relationships that don't include sex. Others may identify as aromantic, meaning they don't feel romantic attraction either, and might prefer platonic or queer platonic connections, relationships that are emotionally intimate, but not romantic in a traditional sense. Understanding this spectrum is crucial because it helps validate the personal truths of countless people who felt different without the words to explain why. It also breaks down the misconception that asexuality is black and white. Just like no two sexual people are the same, no two asexual people are either. By embracing the spectrum of asexuality, we open the door to more inclusive conversations about identity, consent, intimacy, and connection. We begin to understand that attraction is not a one-size-fits-all experience. And in that understanding, we make room for more people to live authentically, without shame, pressure, or confusion. Asexual. Asexual people can experience romantic attraction. In a world where sex and romance are often treated as inseparable, it's easy to assume that someone who doesn't feel sexual attraction must also be incapable of romantic love. But this assumption oversimplifies the rich and diverse experiences of asexual individuals. In reality, Many asexual people can and do experience romantic attraction, and this distinction between sexual and romantic attraction is crucial in understanding the complexity of asexual identity. Asexuality is a sexual orientation defined by experiencing little or no sexual attraction to others. However, that doesn't mean a person doesn't want closeness, companionship, or even traditional forms of romance. This is where the concept of romantic orientation comes in. Just as people can identify as asexual on the spectrum of sexual attraction, they can also identify along a spectrum of romantic attraction, such as heteroromantic, homoromantic, biromantic, panromantic, or aromantic. For example, a person might be asexual and biromantic, meaning they don't feel sexual attraction but do experience romantic feelings toward people of more than one gender. The separation of romantic and sexual attraction helps explain why some asexual individuals may pursue romantic relationships, date, fall in love, and even marry. These relationships might look like traditional couples on the outside, holding hands, sharing lives, going on dates, but without a desire for sexual intimacy. And while some may choose to engage in sex for the sake of their partner or emotional closeness, it isn't rooted in personal sexual desire. For others, romance might be expressed through deep emotional bonding, quality time, physical affection like cuddling, or acts of service and care. These relationships are valid, rich, and meaningful even without a sexual component. In fact, some asexual people engage in what are called queer platonic relationships, a term that describes intense, non-romantic partnerships that go beyond the boundaries of friendship but don't fit into traditional romantic categories. This, too, is a legitimate form of love. Unfortunately, society often views romantic love as inseparable from sex, which can lead to asexual people being misunderstood or having their relationships invalidated. When asexual individuals say they are in love or have a partner, they may be met with skepticism or assumptions that something must be missing. But that only reveals how narrow society's definition of love really is. The truth is, romantic attraction is a distinct experience, and asexual people are fully capable of feeling and expressing it. Their relationships are just as profound, committed, and heartfelt as anyone else's. Recognizing the legitimacy of romantic attraction in asexual individuals helps broaden our understanding of love. Not as something limited by desire, but as something shaped by connection, care, and shared meaning. Asexual people can and do form meaningful relationships. In a world where love is often equated with romance and intimacy is assumed to involve sex, it can be easy to overlook or misunderstand the rich and varied relationships that asexual people form. Asexuality, which refers to a lack of sexual attraction toward others, is frequently mischaracterized as a condition of emotional distance or social disconnection. But in truth, asexual people are just as capable of building deep, meaningful relationships as anyone else, ones grounded in trust, emotional intimacy, companionship, and love. One of the most common misconceptions about asexual people is that they are incapable of forming romantic relationships. In reality, many asexual individuals do fall in love, date, and even marry. Some identify as romantic asexuals, meaning they experience romantic attraction without sexual desire. They may be heteroromantic, homoromantic, biromantic, panromantic, or any number of other identities that describe the gender or genders to whom they feel romantically drawn. Their relationships may include kissing, cuddling, hand-holding, shared domestic lives, and mutual care, all without a need for sex. Even those who identify as aromantic asexuals, meaning they don't feel romantic or sexual attraction, can and often do form powerful connections. These can take the form of queer platonic relationships, a term used in the asexual and aromantic communities to describe bonds that are deeper and more committed than typical friendships, but that do not involve romance or sex. Queer platonic partners may live together, raise children, or make lifelong commitments to one another, challenging the cultural script that romantic or sexual love must be the highest form of human connection. Moreover, asexual people are often deeply invested in platonic relationships, friendships, and community ties. They may prioritize emotional intimacy, shared experiences, and mutual support in ways that are just as significant and fulfilling as traditional romantic relationships. In fact, many asexual people find liberation in not being bound by societal pressures to pursue sexual or romantic partnerships, allowing them to build relationships that are tailored to their unique values and needs. It's also important to note that some asexual people do engage in sexual activity, either for the sake of a partner, for reproduction, or as a personal choice, while still identifying as asexual because they don't experience sexual attraction. In these cases, mutual respect, communication, and consent become the foundation of the relationship, just as they should in any partnership. Ultimately, the capacity to form meaningful relationships is not limited by one's orientation towards sex. It is defined by empathy, communication, trust, and shared purpose. Asexual people are not outsiders to love. They are reimagining what love can look like. Their relationships challenge narrow definitions and invite us to broad. Lack of visibility leads to harmful myths and misunderstanding. Visibility is more than just being seen. It's about being understood. When a group of people remains largely invisible in media, education, and cultural conversations, it creates space for myths, stereotypes, and dangerous misconceptions to grow. This is especially true for those who identify as asexual. The lack of visibility surrounding asexuality doesn't just result in confusion, it fosters harm, erasure, and deep emotional isolation for those who are trying to understand themselves in a world that rarely acknowledges their existence. Asexuality, the experience of little or no sexual attraction, is a valid and natural orientation. Yet many people don't know what it is. Asexual characters are nearly absent from movies, TV shows, books, and even educational programs about sexuality. And when they do appear, they are often misrepresented as cold, robotic, or emotionally stunted. Without accurate representation, society fills in the gaps with assumptions, many of which are rooted in ignorance. One common myth is that asexual people are simply late bloomers or have yet to meet the right person. This belief ignores the real and lifelong experiences of many asexual individuals. It forces them into cycles of self-doubt, pressure, and even medicalization. Another harmful assumption is that asexuality is the result of trauma, a hormone imbalance, or a psychological issue. These misconceptions can lead to unnecessary therapy, invasive questioning, or attempts to fix someone who doesn't actually need fixing. Worse still, invisibility can make asexual individuals feel completely alone. When a person doesn't see themselves reflected in stories, conversations, or role models, they may question whether their feelings are valid or whether they even exist. This lack of recognition can contribute to mental health struggles, especially among asexual youth who are already facing the pressures of fitting into a hypersexualized world. The fear of not being believed, not being accepted, or being told their identity isn't real can make it difficult to come out or seek community. Visibility, on the other hand, offers affirmation. It gives language to experiences that people may not have known how to describe. It educates others, breaking down harmful myths before they can take root. It fosters empathy, encourages inclusion, and lets people know they're not alone. To combat the harm caused by invisibility, we need better education about the full range of human sexual and romantic experiences. We need diverse representation in media, inclusive sex education in schools, and open conversations in families and communities. Because when we make the invisible visible, we don't just change how others see us, we change how we see ourselves. In the end, visibility isn't just about representation, it's about recognition, respect, and the freedom to exist without explanation. To be asexual is not to live in a void. It is to live in clarity. It is to understand your boundaries, your comfort, your truths, and to live by them. As we wrap up this deep dive into asexual identity, let's revisit the heart of what we've explored. Asexuality is a spectrum, not a single, fixed point. Some asexual people experience romantic attraction, some don't. Some enjoy cuddling and intimacy, others prefer solitude. Some may want relationships, some don't. Some may have sex, some may not. And all of these are valid. The common thread is simple: lack of sexual attraction, not the inability to love, not a hatred of touch, and certainly not an absence of humanity. Asexual people live vibrant, complex lives filled with friendships, dreams, art, careers, connections, and yes, love. Just not always in the way society expects. Unfortunately, many people still believe that asexuality isn't real. Some assume it's a phase, a hormonal imbalance, or something that can be cured. But invalidation doesn't make identities disappear, it only makes them harder to live out loud. That's why visibility matters. That's why this conversation matters. If you're asexual and watching this, we hope you feel seen. You are not broken. You are not alone. Your experience is real, and you deserve to exist in spaces that recognize and respect you. If you're questioning your identity, take your time. There is no rush to label yourself. Sexuality is personal, nuanced, and ever-evolving. It's okay to explore. It's okay to not have all the answers. What matters most is being honest with yourself and kind to your journey. And if you're here as an ally, thank you. Listening, learning, and uplifting asexual voices is one of the most powerful forms of support you can offer. Keep challenging assumptions. Keep asking respectful questions. Keep showing up. Before we go, let's leave you with this. Just because something is invisible doesn't mean it's insignificant. Asexuality may be quiet, but it's never silent. Let's continue building a world where every identity, seen or unseen, is treated with dignity, understanding, and love. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you found this helpful. Drop a comment below if you identify as asexual, if you're questioning, or if you just learned something new today. We'd love to hear your story, your truth, your voice. Until next time, be proud, be patient, be you. And remember, your identity isn't defined by what you feel less of, but by how you show up in the world with authenticity. Thanks for watching. Purple heart, black heart, white heart.